What is up, Gacha Gang? Today we are talking about Blue Archive, and honestly, I was very surprised by this game. The closest comparison I can think of to Blue Archive is either like Azure Lane or Girls Frontline, which are kind of like compared to each other as is. I would say it's closer to Azure Lane than it is Girls Frontline. Girls Frontline requires a lot more strategy than people give it credit for, and even though Azure Lane at the end game does have quite a bit of strategy to it, I think Blue Archive is a little higher in the skill category in terms of team compositions, how you execute skills and the such, than Azure Lane tends to be. But with that said, we are breaking down graphics, story, progression, gameplay, uniqueness, monetization, and community. The graphics for Blue Archive are actually on a slightly higher end. I gave it a 6. I think when you look at chibi games, I'm definitely always going to lend it to a 5 or lower. But the fact that it's a 3D chibi game and they actually have some intricate animations, I don't think you guys realize how hard it is to do things like going over all of these different obstacles in the way, blowing up the obstacles in dynamic ways. That actually means they spent a little bit of time in it from a developer's point of view, which is good to see from a chibi game, nonetheless. And I think the actual art that they have for the characters, the cutscenes, and all of sort are pretty daggone good. So I gave it a 6 out of 10. It definitely could be higher if they got rid of the chibi concept, but I know a lot of people like chibis, but given that these rankings are supposed to be for universal appeal, I don't think it can be much higher than a 6. I think 6 is where it's going to tap out, regardless of what they do with the chibi theme. Story, I'm going to put it at a 5. I'm going to be honest with you. After about 45 minutes of reading the story, I checked out. I was not feeling the vibe the story was given. I don't like the idea of a school being an entire city and cities fighting other cities and all this other junk. And then worrying about student council crap. That's just not me. Maybe other people are into that. I'm not. I gave it a 5 because, I mean, they really did try to integrate the story into a lot of what they did. I'm sure people that read it and enjoy it would, enjoy it, I guess. I kind of wrote myself into a hole with that line, didn't I? Anyways, moving on. Next is progression. I really did enjoy the progression system in this game. I did feel like it was warranting the decision choices that were being put into place. I felt like the decisions that I were making had substantial impact to it. And I could definitely see myself, getting into situations where picking the wrong resources could put me in a bind and I would need to go out and grind more of it. Things like choosing your skills are pretty important for as you're growing these characters. Over time, it probably won't matter as much. But I think the actual progression of the game was quite enjoyable. And I think it's something that people would not just, like scoff at and, just straight up follow guides for. I think you could actually, play the game as it comes to them and enjoy what they see. Now, for gameplay, I actually gave this an 8. I thought there was a lot to enjoy from the gameplay perspective. I think if you just start the game out in auto mode, it's not going to feel that exhilarating. But later on, you actually feel like you need to start auto are manually doing a lot of these stages, and you see yourself getting screwed by some of their placements in RNG, and you have to think of ways to counteract that. You want to make sure that your support skills are able to counteract your weaknesses. It really does come down to a lot of team compositions and your timing in play, which I think was actually really fun. It's a lot more fun than I initially gave it credit for. Maybe a 8 is on the high end of what this game should have, but I think because it excelled the expectations I did have for it, it's temporarily an 8. As the game releases more content and of the sort, we'll see if that slides backwards, because generally in the late stage to the in-game stage of the game, they can either make the decision of being like really repetitive or really intuitive. And if they decide to be intuitive and innovative with the way that the gameplay plays out, it could definitely stay at an 8, but I actually see it regressing closer to like a 6 over time, depending on how much time the developer puts into it. Now let's look at the uniqueness. When I'm playing Blue Archive, yes, I am thinking about Girls Frontline and I am thinking about Azure Lane, but it definitely felt like Blue Archive. And a lot of that uniqueness comes from the thematic designs, especially when it comes to music choices, sound design, and the combat as a whole. Though the combat takes a lot from other things, I do think that it really fits into the theme of what you're going for. And really the upbeat vibe of the game is very, very unique. I think a lot of chibi games that are going upbeat really go for the ooh feel. But no, this one is just like, hey, let's have a good time. Let's party. Like we got all this techno music going on, all this EDM music stuff going on. But it's not just like generic stuff. It's like they really cultivated their feel and their theme, and like all of the art really like blends it all together. Overall, they did a really good job of making this game unique from an art direction point of view, and I think that's pretty promising. I don't think that they can get above this rating anytime soon, because really to excel past that, you really have to bring something very, very new artistically to the table, which they're really not, or you have to have a really strong IP, which they don't. Next, we're going to talk about monetization. When I was playing the game, I didn't truly feel the need to put any money into the game. Some people are complaining about the rerolls. I got pretty lucky. I never rerolled once, and I ended up with a pretty good team. So maybe I'm biased in that point of view. But when I was looking through the packs and doing the math behind the store values, I thought it came out pretty far ahead. Now it's up to the rest of the public to, if they want to believe the myths on the rates are rigged or not. I didn't find that to be true for me. Maybe I'm an outlier. Maybe everybody else is just getting unlucky. I'm more likely to believe that all these people whining are just unlucky. But anyways, I thought the pack values were fine. I thought some of the skins were fine. Overall, I thought the progression of the game seemed fine for a gacha game. And that's why I ended up a 6 and not higher. It's just, above average, where you don't outright feel like they're scamming you, which would kind of be average for a gacha game. And community, as always, for a new game, it's slotted at a 5. It would take a lot for a new game to be above or below a 5. I throw a blanket 5 out there for community every single time. I do think that Blue Archive over time may grow a bit and hit in that 6 to 7 range. I don't know. It would take a really massive marketing scheme for them to get past that. I don't know if they have the budget for that type of marketing. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars of marketing. But overall, Blue Archive finished with a 6.28, which is a very strong score. For those of you that feel like that's a really low score, it's not. A 5 is a dead average gacha game. And out of the 70 gacha games I currently have on my tier list, Blue Archive right now slots in at number 17. So 6.28 is a strong game. If you're looking for a new gacha game to play, I think you will enjoy this one. It may not be the most enjoyable new gacha game that came out within the last week, but hey, it's a good game nonetheless. All right, guys, I'm Gacha Jay. Thanks for watching. Peace.